welcome to my channel, Botswana Thinking Law, where I bring you and the law closer. Today on this video, we are going to be talking about the execution process. This is part 3, which is the final part in relation to court process. Before we get started with this video, I'd like to put in a disclaimer. This is not legal advice. This is simply a sharing of general information. If you have a problem of a legal nature, please engage the services of an attorney. I also wanted to let you know that the video also has timestamps. And if you're on a laptop or computer, if you're looking at the video, you'll see at the bottom of the video there's a broken line there. And every time you go to a certain portion in the broken line, you'll see that it's a specific topic. So you can use that to skip to different topics on the video. Or if you're also on your computer or laptop or on your phone, you can go to the description. And the way to get to the description when you're on your laptop or computer is to go to show more, scroll down from the socials, you'll see the time codes. If you're on your mobile, you just press the arrow button and it will show you the description. You also scroll down until you get to the time codes, and then you just press on the blue portion on the time codes and it will take you to that particular time and topic on the video. Now back to our video and discussion for today. What is the execution process? The execution process is a process that is undertaken by a person who has been given an order by the court. And when I say order, I include an order for costs. A person undertakes this process when the other party who is not successful is not meeting their end of the bargain in relation to the court order. In this discussion of the execution process, I will be looking at the execution process from the point of view where money is owed, because that makes it easier for people to understand the execution process. If a person is given an order for 100 nula, or they are given costs by the court, and they have taxed a bill for those costs, and the costs are 100 nula, and the party who is unsuccessful does not pay that money owed or the costs awarded, then this execution process starts. I will, in the course of this channel, deal with the taxation and bill of costs for people to understand how that process comes about. Or I will deal with it as part of those snippets I was talking about in my previous video, where I put in legal snippets here and there on my Facebook page, Botswana Thinking Law. So follow me there for better additional information. A person who has been awarded this 100 pula or has 100 pula awarded as costs, and the unsuccessful person is not paying, then what they do is they apply for the issuance of what is called a writ of execution from the registrar of the court. And in this instance, we are going to be using the High Court as an example. Once the writ of execution is issued, if it is a simple issue of collecting debt, then the person asks for a writ of execution against movable property. However, a person at the onset can also ask for a writ of execution against immovable property, where an order specifically says certain immovable property is specially executable. I will be dealing with this specially executable issue when I deal with debt collection in videos to follow in this channel. And in fact, the next video I will be dealing with after this one is debt collection, where money is owed, as part 1. And in part 2, I will be dealing with debt collection for purposes of repossession. So follow my channel so that you can get notified every time I put up a new video. After the writ of execution for movable property is issued, then the writ of execution is given to a deputy sheriff. The deputy sheriff will then go and look for this person who owes. When they find this person who owes, they will say to them, "This writ of execution says you owe 100 pula. In addition to this 100 pula, you also have to pay my cost as the deputy sheriff." If the person pays, then the money is forwarded to the instructing person by the deputy sheriff, and the deputy sheriff keeps their costs. If the person is not able to pay, then the deputy sheriff will attach that person's property. And because this is a writ of execution against movable property, the deputy sheriff can only attach movable property using this writ of execution. So if a person has a house, but they don't have furniture, they don't have a car, they don't have money in the bank, then the deputy sheriff cannot attach that house. The house can only be attached using a writ of execution for immovable property. If the person who owes has nothing, then the deputy sheriff gives out what is called a nula bona return. And in the nula bona, the deputy sheriff explains that they asked for the money and the person said they couldn't pay. They asked for the person to point out their property. The person said they had no property. They, as the sheriff, also searched and found that there wasn't enough property to satisfy the debt. This nula bona return can be used for one of two things. It can be used for getting a writ of execution against immovable property. It can also be used for civil imprisonment. Going back to this writ of execution against movable property, where the person has enough property to be attached to satisfy the debt, then the deputy sheriff will attach the property and sometimes can remove it and store it. And the process is that then there has to be advertisements and conditions put in place for when this property might be sold by public auction. If the property is sold and it's enough to pay the debt owed and the deputy sheriff's costs and any related costs like advertising costs, then the matter will be complete. However, if the property doesn't satisfy after auction the debt and the costs related, including deputy sheriff's fees, then the deputy sheriff will issue what is also called a nula bona return. Where the property has been sold, whether or not it satisfies the debt, there has to be something filed with the court called a plan of distribution. And this is simply to say the money raised as part of the auction was used in this way, and it will show that it went to the debt. If the property is sold and more money is received, enough to satisfy the debt, related costs, and some left over, then the leftover money will be paid back to the person who owes, and the plan of distribution will show this extra money going back to the person who owed. When this nula bona is issued, whether or not it's issued because the person doesn't have enough assets to satisfy the debt or they have nothing, then as explained, it can be used to get a writ of execution against immovable property. And the reason why this writ of execution is issued is because, as explained, sometimes a person might not have any movable property but have a house. Then the house can be attached and sold with the necessary advertisements by public auctions with the necessary conditions of sale to satisfy the debt. Where this person has nothing at all, no house, no car, no furniture, nothing, then the nula bona can be used to apply for civil imprisonment. In civil imprisonment is where the person who is owed money says, I know this person. They are able to make money because they are running a part-time company where they supply materials. So I know from time to time they receive X amount of money per month. I am asking that they be put in jail, and usually what people ask for is about 30 days for this person to know that they don't have the right to deny paying me when they themselves receive money and use it for other things. It must be taken in mind that the court, in dealing with civil imprisonment, will not just throw a person in jail. There has to be proof that this person indeed can afford to pay, even in installments, but they simply refuse to. Where a person has nothing at all, the court usually does not give an order for civil imprisonment. Instead, the court will allow this person to make installments of a nominal amount of money. However, this nominal amount of money has to be looked at as against the amount owed. If the amount owed is 10 bula, for example, and this person says, I'll pay 1 bula a month, then that is understandable. However, if the amount owed is 10,000 bula, and the person says, I will pay 10 bula a month, then clearly that is unreasonable, because it will take many years for them to clear this 10,000 bula. So the amount that is looked at has to be as against the amount owed, or the money owed, and as against what this other person can afford. Where it is evident that this person can afford to pay at least something every month, and they simply refuse, then the court will order that they be thrown in jail. And in a lot of instances, once an order for civil imprisonment is issued and the person is taken to jail by the deputy sheriff, then all of a sudden money appears out of nowhere, and in some instances to even clear the debt. Now, when an order for civil imprisonment is issued, that order is used to get what is called a warrant of arrest. It is this warrant of arrest that the deputy sheriff uses to have the person put in jail. After the 30 days, then you find that in some instances people are more than willing to come to an agreement and pay something every month. The important thing to consider in matters of collection of debt is that you have to make an effort to pay, especially if there is a court order that says you owe money. Another way for execution or recovery could be where a person brings what is called a Garnishee application. And a Garnishee application is where you say, this person has a job, or this person is owed money, or the money is coming from someone else. So let's say Malebogo, for example, has a job and Malebogo owes Bui money. Then Bui can bring an application for a Garnishee order, and in that Garnishee application, Bui has to also include the Garnishee, who would be the employer, and Malebogo would be the judgment debtor. Bui will be the judgment creditor. Once the order for a Garnishee is granted, then the order is served on the Garnishee, which is the employer, to say you have to deduct money every month from the judgment debtor's salary. And this money will be the amount that is set out in the order. So for an example, if the order says the money deducted every month is 500 pula and it will be paid to a nominated bank account, then the employer will deduct that 500 pula from the judgment debtor's salary every month and forward it to the specific account. However, if the judgment debtor leaves that job for a different job, then the Garnishee falls away. And the reason why it falls away is because the Garnishee will be a specific person or party. So the employer's name will be there. You can't use that same Garnishee order to go to a new employer. You would have to bring a new Garnishee application. Now that is the entire execution process. But I will be dealing with this execution process even when I deal with debt collection, because it is an important aspect of collecting debts. And this collection of debts could be in the form of a loan, maintenance owed, or any other instance where a person owes another money. I hope this was an enlightening process and has brought you closer to the law in relation to the execution process. Now, in all instances, please always get legal advice early on. Do not wait for the matter to come to the execution process and then you go and say, please help me. Do not wait for your property to be advertised or for a matter to be set down for argument for you to get help. There are many instances where people will ignore applications or they will ignore summonses. Default judgment is granted against them. The deputy sheriff comes with the writ of execution. That's when they say, please help me. Or in other instances, now their property has been attached. The date of sale is tomorrow. And the person will say, please help me. Usually when we are at that stage in the process, it is very, very difficult to stop it. So please get assistance early on in your matters, because you might find that sometimes you are able to negotiate matters and put in new terms that are easier to handle. That being said, thank you very much for joining me on this video. Please follow me on Facebook, Twitter. My socials are in the description. And thank you for joining me. Subscribe, like, share these videos so that we can actually bring a lot more people closer to the law. Because the law operates in relation to you. Whether or not you know it is immaterial, because ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Thank you for joining me again once more. Bye.